So, what is a Skinner box really? Because I talk about Skinner boxes a lot, like a lot. And when you use a term like that many times, you sometimes just forget what you're even talking about. Like, because there's many different kinds of Skinner boxes. And, like actually, when I talk about Skinner boxes, I'm not even talking about the box per se. I'm talking about what's going on inside of it. And the thing that's going on inside of it is actually operant conditioning, which of course are kind of conditioning. And so when I'm talking about that, there's different kinds of ways to condition someone. Like even operant conditioning is just a different version of conditioning. So like it's not like the box itself is like uninteresting. Okay, well, let's just start with the box itself because it really is like it's a cool piece of technology. Because on its own, it's really just an environment to like observe for testing for like to do research in, specifically when it comes to behaviorism, which is the science researching how people or animals behave. Why do they do the things they do? Which like that kind of research is really interesting and really important, right? Because it's important to find out why we do things. And sure, that knowledge can be used for like good or bad. Like mostly Skinner-Box's mechanics. Operant conditioning is used to like manipulate people, into like spending lots of money. But using up that research can also be used to like counter that. So, what is this box? Well, whenever people like explain it, it's also always really funny because like whenever you talk about Skinner boxes, you're never talking about the box itself. Yet you still kind of like I've seen lots of videos on Skinner box, just to do research, and they always like so it's just a glass box, right? And you put like a rat in it, like a test animal, and not really a guinea pig. Now, nobody really puts guinea pigs in there, but either a rat or a pigeon, and there's certain differences depending on which animal it is. And one thing that's always funny is they always mention that it has like a water bottle in it. Yeah, there's a water bottle in it. Yeah, technically yes, but that's of course so to make sure that the animal doesn't like dehydrate. Like the animal needs water. He needs to drink. Like is there oxygen in the box as well? Are there air holes? Oh yeah, there's air holes. And also there's a ceiling and there's a roof. Yeah, that's kind of funny about it. But really, the rest of it is, of course, there's a glass wall so the researchers can look at the animal. But also, there's a floor that can be electrified. Yeah, and this, is, of course, where the animal testing things comes in. Like that's part of to punish it. That's part of the behaviorism. Now, luckily, operant conditioning, it's well, they first need to test. They first need to do research to figure this out. But really, punishments don't work very well. So luckily it doesn't happen much anymore. Hopefully, right? Like you got like animal rights stuff. So really, you don't want to have the electrified floor. Like you still need you can have punishments. Like water spray or something. But yeah, then the rest. This is where it gets interesting, right? Is there's a little computer, like a little machine attached, and of course you got like, well, if it's a rat, you gotta have like a little lever, that the rat can like push onto with its like four legs like really easily. And if it's a pigeon, it's like this. There's this little hole in the wall with like this disc that like rotates, and it's like the disc is one part red, one part green, and if it's green, then the pigeon's supposed to peck at it, and then the computer kind of says, "Oh, it's pecked at. Okay, so we're gonna note that." And then you also have this little thing that food comes out of. So you got all these food pellets, and the machine keeps track on how many times the button has been pressed and stuff, and then it gives that food. So here we got this little environment. We got this animal, and now you can start like programming the computer, which I presume it's like it's like actually has a programming language or something where you can just like plug like a USB in or something. Because I don't imagine it's like completely mechanical. I mean, I guess you could do that, but then you can't really change it very easily. Maybe all the way like back in like the 80s or something. Maybe back then they had like mechanical Skinner boxes. But it really is a nice piece of machinery. Like it's really cool because it even like keeps track of how many times the button has been pushed. Now, nowadays, it's probably literally just like an Excel sheet. But whenever you see like the old footage, what they do is they literally have like a seismic counter. Like, when in the cartoons, right? There's like a mountain and there's these rangers in this little shack. And then like, I don't know, Bugs Bunny causes an avalanche. And they got this machine with like this pen on it. And it just goes like, it's drawing on this piece of paper. And this piece of paper just keeps going. It keeps folding into this giant pile, like really neatly folding into the pile. And like, oh man, that's a waste of paper. But then the avalanche happens and it goes like, that's how they keep track of that. So it's like, oh, the pigeon pressed the button? Whoop. Yeah, it's really funny if you look at it like that. Like, like the researchers, they gotta look at this little piece of paper and then they gotta see, oh yeah, so that's at that time you press the button. Like, so that's basically how the box works, right? So then you're like, well, now you gotta talk about the conditioning. That's what they're going to research. Now, operant conditioning was, of course, like B.F. Skinner, like really did that. That was like his thing. But before that, you had this guy called Pavlov, and Pavlov, he kind of figured out like the basics of conditioning. Although like the difference between them is really kind of vague. Like I try looking up what the exact difference. It's kind of tough because like basic conditioning is almost like instinct. Like it's like action and then they react to it. Operant conditioning is, the way to describe it, is the animal makes like an active choice. Like they choose to engage with the button. It's not like, the way Pavlov did it is whenever he fed his dogs, he would ring a little bell. Right? And if you have an animal, like this happens all the time, right? When your pets, like when you walk to the kitchen, it's like, they'll run up to you because they think they're going to get food, because that's like a pattern. You walk to the kitchen because that's where you keep the food. But you're not always going to give them food. It's not for you, it's for me. But it's like a pattern. So what ended up happening is that Pavlov could just ring the little bell, and the dogs, their mouths start to water, because like, oh, I've been conditioned to understand that bell connects to food. And that's really interesting, right? Because now you've trained them. And basically, anytime an animal is trained, it's always through conditioning. Always. Like if someone trains their dog, even like in Nintendogs, it's like, oh, dog, paw. The dog puts his paw in your hand. They're like, how did they train him? Well, they do that by like, at first, like you kind of hold your hand out and say paw. And if they happen, you like, I don't know, maybe you put their paw in your hand. I don't even know how to do it. Maybe I should have looked it up. Yeah, and if they do, you give them a little treat. And then they're like, okay, every time, the action is paw. And then the animal's like, duh. Because their brain is like, kind of like they've been like programmed like that. And of course, not getting a treat all the time. But, it's like, it's instinct. And that's kind of like a kind of scary thing. Because that's just nature, like it makes sense. It's through evolution. If an action is rewarding, by foods or, like breeding, then the animal is kind of programmed. The brain's like, okay, just keep doing that. It's working. It's making us survive. Keep doing that. And then we humans, we're like, okay, you need food to survive? I'm only going to give it to you if you do what I want. Animals like, oh, okay. My brain says so. I don't really have the ability. They don't really have the ability to think about it. They're just gonna keep doing it. And that's kind of that's like the basic conditioning. But at the same time, it also sounds a little bit like operant conditioning, because the animal is making the decision to put their paw in your hand, right? It's kind of vague, and like, Pavlov, he also had like a goldfish. And like they always say that goldfishes have like 5-second memory spans. But when it comes to food, they're like the programs. That's not even memory. That's just, again, it's like a reflex. So he would put food on their noses. I don't know how you do that. Some freaking acrobat over here. And then he ring the bell, and the goldfish is like, oh, there's food apparently. I'm gonna eat it off my nose. And then he doesn't put food there. Rings the bell, and the goldfish is like, huh? Where's the food? I don't know, like he doesn't notice the food on his nose. I don't know. He apparently did this. But yeah, so that's like the basic conditioning of Pavlov. Also, you know, you also of course have punishments. Like, and maybe you saw that one like the no, not SpongeBob, Simpsons episode where like Lisa like put like electrodes to like a cupcake, and the hamster was like, oh, like touch it, like, ew. The hamster has learned a valuable lesson, and then Bart's like, oh, I don't care, I want a cupcake, zzz, zzz. Because he was an idiot, but really he was a smart one because that hamster was an idiot. He was being conditioned. Bart's like, oh, fuck you, because the next time that cupcake's not gonna be electrified. You can teach him not to get the cupcake. He's smarter than that. He really got her. He really got her there. No, he did. He beat the system. If you're unconditionable, yeah, you'll fuck, you'll get electrocuted sometimes, but you can be manipulated. Stubbornness. So that was really smart, actually. Right? But it was framed as if he's an idiot. He wasn't. He beat the system. He doesn't go by your rules, and that's kind of really funny, because like if you ever seen that show Shark Tank, those shows really suck, because the concept is just shit, right? Desperate people come begging like these people to like give them some money and then become like the permanent parasites. Like, I'll give like a mosquito. Like, I'll give you like 2 pints of blood, and then I can suck blood from you the rest of your life. But like the people are like, the people go there are desperate. They're gonna have like a stupid idea, and then they're gonna get laughed at. Of course, if you have a good idea, you're not gonna show up there. You're gonna go somewhere else. Yeah. So some guy is like, okay, I got like this watch that electrifies you. It's like zaps you when you, I don't know, do something like eat for dieting or something. Or I don't know, I guess you can use it to wake up. I guess you can use it when, oh, I want to stop saying diddly dick. And then, well, I don't think it even could do that. Maybe like voice recognition, right? That would be funny though. Like you yell at your friend, diddly dick. And they're like, oh, fuck. That'd be funny. But no, it's of course, it's like Pavlovian, right? It's like you're just being conditioned to not do something. The issue with that though is you gotta take the initiative to put the thing on. So at that point, why don't you just take it off? Like the amount of like mental energy it takes to adhere to the rules. It's just, it's easier to just stop eating like chocolate. Because at some point you're like, like at this point, I really just want some chocolate. I'm just gonna take it off, and that's what always happens, right? I mean, I guess that's why diet culture sucks. But like also this machine, it just doesn't work. I mean, it may work for like a dominatrix. If it's forced upon you, by someone else, that's really only when that works. Because another person can like give you like other punishments, like you keep it on, young man, or back in the cage with you, back in the skinner box. No, I don't want to go to the skin box. I want to condition you. You're getting the operant conditioning now. No, please no. Okay, no, it just doesn't work that well when you're doing it on yourself. You really can't condition yourself. It just doesn't work, because at that point, just do it. Just do it. But and now we get to operant conditioning. So what's going on with that shit? Well, if I'm looking at my notes here, really operant conditioning is, it's tough to explain. It's basically like, it's like when you learn that a certain action, when you decide to do an action, it's tough. You have to initiate the action, and then it rewards you based on you doing it, and you need to figure out how many times it wants you to do it, and like when it wants you to do that, and then you kind of get into this rhythm. It's like it's a compulsion. It's like gnashing. It's like chewing on your nails. It's like I don't know. It's really tough to explain what actually is the difference. So I'm just gonna give you an example because this is just like the most basic example. So you got the Skinner box, you got this lever, and you also got like you got like a light that maybe like goes on and off, and maybe like a sound because like auditory and visual stimulus is very important. Because then like your brain your brain really likes it because it's like really easy. Like action reactions are often like really if I do something now in the future, like if I buy a lottery ticket, there and suddenly there's like $500 in my mailbox. Did I get that $500 from the lottery? I don't know. It may be. So they don't do that. No, they come at your door and like, ring, hey, but $5 billion. And then they have a big party. And it's like, oh, look all this sound. Look at all this. I'm stimulated. You got that slot machine. You're pulling on it. All the sounds, all the colors. It's easy to understand. So, depending on how you want to condition this animal, you might make it so that every time the light turns on, that's when you're just supposed to press the button. Or, well, there's different versions because that's really the thing here. Operant conditioning, there's different ways of doing it, and some are more effective than others. Okay, so you got to program it in the right way, and then you can get better or worse results. And really, in this part, where I go into positive and negative rewards and punishments, because that's how you condition people. You gotta give them reinforcements. You gotta reinforce certain behavior and you gotta punish certain behavior. Really, the punishments are called reinforcements as well. Yeah, it's like actually really confusing. So here's the first thing: positive and negative. You might think, oh, okay, food, that's positive. Electrocution, that's negative, right? Which actually, like I was talking about, like the water bottle. Like whenever a dog has like a shock collar, and like you want, oh, I don't want my dog to bark. Some people would give like a dog like a shock collar, and like every time they bark, it like shock them. Which like like that's some fucking hardcore conditioning right there. And it's also like animal abuse. But even like a water spray, that's also like conditioning. But that's like those are the punishments, right? So the thing is, positive does not mean good and negative does not mean bad. Positive means you add something. Negative is you take something away. So if you add like a shock, that's still positive. You give them shock, that's a positive reinforcement. Giving them food, that's a positive reinforcement. Taking food away as a punishment, that's called a negative punishment. Which actually I got kind of like confused because wouldn't that be like a negative reward because you're taking the reward away? No, it's a punishment, and you're taking something away. That's how you have to think about it. It's kind of, yeah, I know. I had to write it down. And like a negative reward is you take the pain away. So like if you miss the bond, if you tell us the code to I don't know your weapons or some to MI6, we will not cut your dick off with a laser. That's a negative reward. I know it but yeah, so luckily punishments don't work very well. They don't. Like people said, like it hurts. It sucks. People get angry. And you don't want people to get angry when you're manipulating them. Really you only like they actually often say that, like children. Yeah, oh my god, like children they get fucking like conditioned all the time, right? Like when you get in the corner. It's like it's a lot better to give rewards. It works a lot better. But of course, like they don't really do it because I mean, what are you gonna do? You're gonna keep giving children money or something? Or you're gonna keep giving them gifts? Because that's kind of the issue with reinforcements. In order to condition them like that, you need to give them a lot of gifts, and you need to give them something they want. And you can't just go give like a child candy all the time. So that's why they still work with punishments. Because standing in the corner is free. It comes down to money. In the end, yeah, it's just money again. It doesn't work well to compulse them. It doesn't get them into that Skinner box, into that schedule. So really, it's only ever positive rewards or negative punishments. Yeah, taking away. Yeah, okay. Yeah, taking away something like, or just not giving them if they don't do it right. That's really it. So that's like more neutral. Like that's not we're not taking the food away again. We're not grabbing it out of your mouth. We're not giving it you in the first place. So let's say you got just a basic Skinner box, and every single time the rat pushes down on the lever, they get a treat. That version of Skinner box, you can they figure out. You put that rat in the box. They don't know what the hell to do. They randomly press on this button, and oh look, I got some food. I don't know. Let's do that again. And then they keep doing that, and then they figure it out. Okay, this lever gives me food. Here's the thing though, and this is why this is not very useful, because one of the things they figured out is that biological animals and people have biological limits. You can only eat so much food before you're just stuffed. You're just done. I don't want any more. Meanwhile, any sort of like social or psychological reward, like praise or like money, something that doesn't have a biological limit, they that goes infinite, right? Like you can open as many loot boxes as you want. My body's not gonna be like, oh no, no more legendaries. I can't have any more. Oh no, I don't want to. Please, mommy, no, not another epic. That doesn't happen. So that's kind of like thing where the rat is only gonna push the lever when they're hungry. Because yeah, sure, he could push it like 5 million times, but do you need 5 million of that food? You don't really. Like you can have like a little bit of a stash, I guess. But like the thing about like giving them food every time is that it's consistent. It's you just get it. If you need food, just push the lever. I don't need to push it now. I can just if I can get food whenever I want, I'm not gonna worry about it. If I can just go to the store, like it's 5 minutes away, I just walk there, I buy something, boom, I'm done. Especially if it's free, why would I start hoarding? There's no point in that. If there's infinite, why hoard? It's like in it's like in Kingdom Hearts, but not like the good one. The first story, like the fragmentary passage or something where it's like, oh yeah, the light was infinite. As long as nobody tries to take it for themselves. And then the Keyblade War happened. You're trying to take the light, because it was like a big Among Us thing. No, seriously, like it was Among Us, and they failed. Like those people with animal masks, they failed at playing Among Us because their boss was like their leader, the guy, their senpai, was like he just basically just fucking like betrayed them. Bunch of fucking idiots they were. So then like, oh, someone's trying to take the lights. We gotta stop him. How do we do that? We're just gonna have to take the light before they do it. And then they start fighting over it, and then the light runs out. So that's kind of what happened during COVID. Like there's enough toilet paper until people start hoarding it. If everyone just takes like one pack, there's enough. One person takes 100. Now 9 other people don't have it. Then scarcity kicks in. Now suddenly nobody has it because a few people just have everything. So like when there's plenty, when it's consistent, when it's dependable, that's when the Skinner box doesn't work. Because the idea is you want to keep on pressing that lever. That's really it. Like imagine if the researcher gets paid $1 every time the rat presses the button. That's how you have to see it. How can you get this rat to press that lever so many times that I become a millionaire? That's how you got to condition them. So you got to figure out how to do that. Now there's different ways of doing it, because there's different ways of upgrading the Skinner box, and the way they are. And I actually recently found this out. Like this, like some kind of psychological. If you're a psychology major or something, you know this. But there's like, okay, so first of all, there's a ratio and interval schedules. Really, it's all about schedules. So a ratio schedule is about like how many times you do something. If I do this many times, then I get the food. So if I press the button once, get the food. Press it 5 times, get the food. That's ratio, it's the amount. Then there's the interval. And that one it's on a timer. So let's say every 5 minutes I just get food. It just automatically happens. I don't even have to do anything. It could be every 10 minutes, every hour. Like most, if you have an auto feeder, like you have like, oh, okay, so at these times, I don't want to feed them myself. I'm going to have a robot do it. Every 10 hours, give them some food. And then the stuff like comes flying out, and then your cat's like, and starts eating that shit. Yes, nice. That's an interval. But they don't have to do anything about it. Yet. And that's the big part. So that's a timer. But then you also got, and it's kind of like a crisscross thingy. So the ratio and interval on my paper, I got the bottom at the top ones. And at the side, I've got fixed and variable schedules. Fixed is dependable. It is, it's the same every time. Every time you press the level 5 times, you get it. 100%. Every 5 minutes, you get it. It's 100%. Variable. That's where the gambling comes in. Because now you might say, okay, you press it 5 times, maybe you get food. Or really, what it's mostly is, you get the food anywhere between 1 and 6 presses. Something like that. Like you gotta do it a random amount of times. And right there, you can also already see, like, that's just a slot machine, right? Now I'm gonna keep pulling the lever, and for every, like, I don't know, maybe next time I'll win. Or maybe it'll take me 3 more tries, or 10, or 50. I don't know. Now, of course, like a variable interval schedule in that case would be, you might get it between 5 or 10 minutes. I don't know, just wait, But where it gets really fucky is when you start combining them. Because then you get a fixed ratio schedule or a fixed interval schedule. So, really a fixed ratio, that's the one where you just press the button, right? Where you just press it like 5 times. You gotta do this thing 5 times, and then you get it. Fixed ratio. Every time you do this a certain amount of times, that's it. Fixed interval is, well, I already explained that actually, but you can also combine them. So, what if we were to combine a fixed, no, really, like you don't even want to do it fixed, you want to go for the variable. That's hardcore. That's the hardcore shit. So you could do it where you have a variable ratio with a variable interval schedule. That's like the super Skinner box. Because, holy shit. Okay, well, let's just start with the variable. Let's just start with the variable ratio and the fixed interval. Okay, so every 5 minutes, or like every hour, between 1 o'clock and 10 past, if you press the button anywhere between 10 and 30 times, you get like an M&M. So every time the clock becomes like, it's like ding, you're like, oh, I need to go press this button now, because if in 10 minutes I have 10 minutes to do this. And like 20 or like 10 or 30 times, that doesn't take too long. Here's the thing though, you gotta do it between the time. And you gotta do like anywhere between 10 and 30. So yeah, you have like 10 minutes time to do it. But what if you're on the toilet? What if what if like you had to go out and do something? What if you're in the outside? You need to go back inside and press on your buttons. So now you've got this schedule. Every hour you need to be at home. Or every hour you need to look on your phone. Like if it's an app or something. You need to do this. And you need to keep pressing it. And this isn't the thing where you go like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No, I don't know. Sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's more. I don't know. So this kind of sucks. Because now you're on the schedule already. And already you're already pressing the button a whole bunch of times. So this researcher is like, I can get them to press the button 30 times. Because, you might say, 30 times, that's a lot. But sometimes it's 10. Of course, the average is 15. But, already you kind of tricked them. because let's say it's between 1 and 30, like one time, maybe I get, every time they're going to think, maybe I'll only have to press like 5 times. And then suddenly when they do have to press it 30 times, okay, back next time, I'll get better luck. But they won't. And so already you've increased the amount of times they need to they're pressing the button. You're already getting richer. You've tricked them into pressing the button multiple times. I probably should have build this up a little bit slower here, my examples. But now what happens when you also add a variable interval? Let's say that the button pressing doesn't get registered until so it starts at 1 o'clock or something, and then before 10 passed, the clock the button press actually start being counted. So sometimes, and this is random, so sometimes it's right on 1 o'clock you can start pressing the button, or maybe it's only 5 after, or 7 minutes, or sometimes maybe it's 9 minutes, so now you only have a minute, maybe only 30 seconds. So now you're well, it's not going to tell you when. If you're lucky, maybe it'll have the little sound and light up when it happens. But let's say that even that happens, you need to sit by that Skinner box waiting for the light to turn on. That sucks. You need to have your even again on the phone, you need to be looking at the thing. What if you miss it? You need to start pressing that button really quick. Because are you going to be able to press it 30 times in 30 seconds? Well, I guess you are, 1 a second. I guess that would be pretty easy. But you don't know. So, and often you don't even know what the time is. What if there's no lights? Now you just need to be pressing. So now, the moment, and sure you can be okay, it's probably not going to be in the first 5 minutes. I can press that button in 5 minutes, that many times. Sure. So I'm going to wait till 5 passed. But still, it's so many more button presses you're getting, because some of them may not be counted. You may be pressing that button for 5 minutes straight. It's insane. But if you want those M&Ms, you gotta do it, and it just feels good, because every time your brain is okay, this is gonna work. If you do it. If you keep pressing this button, eventually we're gonna get something. So it's gonna keep pumping dopamine in your brain. It's really fucked up. It's really fucked up. So, to give you an example of this, because this is the part where, how do we make money out of this? That's ultimately the question. How do I make money out of this? Now, the way you do that is you get people addicted, and then you need to, they want more. You need to get them into that schedule, and then you add friction. That's basically it. And then when the friction is added, they become frustrated, and then they'll pay you to remove the friction. So to give you an example of this, what they did, the Skinner Foundation, or I don't know, maybe he did himself, there was a rumor that he put his own children in a Skinner box, and really he just put them into a glass box. He didn't actually condition them, but he did put a child, someone, there's video evidence of this. Someone put a child into a baby box, it was a toddler, kind of old, and he had this huge machine next to it, and a little lever and a little thing where candy came out of. They did that. Also, if you saw my last video, I also found this footage where they actually got a pig to shoot a cannon, to pull the rope. That was pretty cool. Dogs is give paw, here you go. Pig literally shoots a cannon. Way cooler. That pig was I'm going to shoot this cannon. Yeah, they put this kid in this Skinner box, right? And they actually went through some different kind of Skinner boxes configurations. So the base one was just every time he presses it, he gets the food. And the kid figured this out, right? So he keeps pressing it, and then the next time, they were okay, now you need to press it a certain amount of times. And the kid, he's it's really funny, because he's looking for his mom at the same time. He's sucking on on his fingers. And he's oh, can you? Oh. It was actually, it was kind of fucked up, but also kind of a cute kid. It was kind of cute to see. I don't know, it just was. But what they ended up doing was they started doing the interval, and the way they did it was if you press the button before 12 seconds had passed, the timer would reset and you wouldn't get anything. So the kid keeps pressing this lever and nothing's coming out because the timer is being reset every time. So what ends up happening, the kid gets incredibly frustrated because, he had this compulsion and now he's not being rewarded. So basically what happens, he rage quits. And he gets to the other side of the box and he's like, Mom, get me out. They're not giving me candy. Thing is, like 12 seconds had already passed. He could have gotten that candy if he had just walked up and like pressed the button. So he could have had it, but he was kind of done, And that's kind of like the tightrope you have to walk. Is if the kids had like money and he could have paid to have the candy come out again, probably would have done it. And that's where it happens. You add that friction, and if there's too much friction, people get mad. But if it's just enough, people like, I'll pay to feel good again. That's where you got them. So of course you got like the slot machine. That's like, there are people already paying. And then like maybe money comes out. But like, well, there you can still technically win money. But the risk is higher, right? With any kind of like Skinnerbox video game, that you're not putting in money initially. It's all about getting you to pay that money by adding the friction. So there's really, like in a slot machine, there's really no friction. Really, like you already got them to pay money, and then you just have to keep them like you have to sometimes throw them some money to keep them pumping. You're throwing some loop at them. That's it. It's like constant friction. But sometimes you just need to remove some friction and then they'll keep going. With like any kind of like free-to-play game, that's different. Like you want to get them looped in and then you add a little bit of friction and then they pay to get the friction away. So to give you an example of this, one time on vacation, like my laptop actually came pre-installed with Candy Crush, which, that's just, I love the future, right? Like back in the day, you'd get Minesweeper and Perchance. Now you get Candy Crush on your laptop. It sucks, right? So I'm like, I had no internet there. I'm gonna play some Candy Crush, And this is actually like just like the mobile version or something like. This is like, it sucked, and it sucks on purpose. It's the perfect example of just a Skinner box, and I guess that's why it made so much money, right? Like they always often say, oh man, old people are really becoming gamers nowadays. And like grandma's not a gamer. She's playing Candy Crush. Okay? Like she's spending money. She's not even like beating the game. She's probably not even good at Candy Crush. She's just paying. Because the way it works is the first few levels are just tutorials. Like they give you a little bit of tutorial and then they let you play a little bit. Like it's really just, there's really no fun in it. But what the fun is of Candy Crush is really just Bejeweled, right? And the fun of those games is when you get like 5 in a row. And especially in Candy Crush, they got like a lot of cool sounds and effects, right? That's that lights, that auditory thing. And when you get like 5 in a row, you get like this chocolate ball with all the little colors on it. And it's like, and that's the cool part. That part is awesome when you get that big row. The thing is, in the levels of Candy Crush, that's not the goal. Because in regular Bejeweled, the way the game works is that you have infinite moves. But once you can't make moves anymore, once you can't make like a row anymore, that's when the game ends. You got like a high score. In Candy Crush, when you can't make a move anymore, they just shuffle that stuff. At first, I didn't even understand what was happening. Like, why is it shuffling? Well, because I couldn't make any more moves. The point is that you have a limited amount of moves. And that's like a goal. So it's like, and these goals, they were so shit. It'd be like, there's all this ice, and you gotta break the ice. Or like, there's all these soda cans, and you gotta break the soda cans to make the soda rise up, and the gummy bears can then hit the ceiling. It sucks, especially since a lot of these level designs make it so that there's huge holes in the grids. And so making a 5 in a row becomes impossible. The part where I stopped was when I came across a level where it was like 80% ice. 80%. And you had to like very slowly, like you only had like the top part to make like a row. And like in the ice there were like candies, so you could make like a row with the candies in the ice, but like it was impossible. Like
no skill. And that's the point. Because the idea is that these levels are not fun. So you go into the tutorial, you're not having really have fun. You're like, okay, I'm sure after the tutorial it gets fun. But then it doesn't, because the levels are not fun. Because making the soda rise up isn't fun. Breaking the ice isn't fun. Getting those 5 in a row is fun, but you can't. So you keep going, hoping that the next level will be that freedom where you just get to like do the rows. Just play Bejeweled, I guess. That's what you want. So I actually kept going, like, I was just into this. Not really, like, it's like I wasn't really aware. That's why I kept going, because I was trying to get a level that was fun. I was trying to get to the fun, but there's no fun. The only fun to have is to beat the level, and that's how they get you. That's how they get you. They just get you conditioned to beat a level, not actually have fun beating it. And what they do is you only have a limited amount of moves. How did they decide how many moves you get? Well, what they do is they playtest it, and then they take the average amount that it takes, the amount of moves, and they go 2 below that. And that's how many moves you get. And so, what's gonna happen is you're gonna be a move short. You're gonna be like, oh man, if I had just one more move, I'd win. And they know. And that's why they make you pay money for an extra move. And that's how they get you. They also have like power-ups like, oh, lollipop, and then you smash the lollipop and just breaks all these candies. Oh man, if I could just break those 3 candies up there, I'd win. But they only give you some free ones. But then the rest you have to pay. And that's how they get you. So you just have to, it's like, I just want to win. I don't want to retry this level because it's not funny to retry. It's not fun to retry the level. I just want to beat it. So I beat the level. And then what do you get after that? Another shitty level. Like this level with all the ice. It was the most frustrating shit ever. It was so frustrating because I couldn't even do anything. There was no skill involved. I just needed one more move. And of course I couldn't pay. And even if I could, I wouldn't. No internet. And I don't really do that. Like, no fucking way, right? But that made me realize how far it actually come. That was like level 40 or something. And like your grandma, she's like playing 5 million levels. They just keep throwing more levels. Because once you've paid your way through all the levels that are in the game, then there's nothing to pay anymore. I mean, what are you gonna do? Replay levels? No. So that's why Candy Crush keeps throwing more levels at you. Like you're just completing levels. It's not fun. They don't need to be designed well. They just need to be levels to beat, and they need to be like one more move, and then you just beat it. And there's just not even like a difficulty because there's no skill. And that's basically how it works. You got this friction. You give the player friction, and then they'll pay for the loop. Throw sand in the gears, pay for the loop. That's how it works. And it's a tightrope because you frustrate them too much. That's when they quit. Because that's when I quit. Like, oh, look at all this ice. I'm quitting. But the problem though is I wasn't gonna pay money. For me, like that limit of me like quitting is I would quit before I pay money. So there's no way to get me. With many other people, like they'll pay way before they quit. And so depending on how big the difference is, you can get people to pay more. Certain people, like whales, even when there's no friction, they'll just pay because like they like the developer or something. Like in TF2, I had lots of people like that who, if you were a free-to-play player, you just get bullied because you were taking advantage of Valve. They make this game free to play and you don't pay? Well, no, because I'm paying already with my time and I'm content, for you fucking assholes to like kill, right? Oh, and 3, I'm also like being like peer pressured and bullied, like, and you're literally telling me to buy loot boxes, dude. So I'm paying, all right, and I literally did like buy some loot boxes in that game. Luckily not that many, but like that's it, right? They're not making the game free because they're their friends. They're doing it to get more people in there, and then they get you to pay. That friction like was really just added by like the players themselves. Like, like it's that really in a game like that. It's all about culture. It's about social interaction. It's like if you don't have an unusual, and you're not part of real, you're not a good player or something. That's really where that friction comes from. But of course, like once someone gets like addicted to like opening loot boxes, that's like auto friction immediately. But that's the thing about like Overwatch. In Overwatch, they just it's a paid game. Well, it was at least at the beginning. So they give you some free loot boxes, right? And that's something that people really didn't understand about Overwatch 2. Like Overwatch 2, they replaced loot boxes with a battle pass system, and there were lots of people who were like, "Oh man, the loot boxes were so much better," but they weren't, because the way it worked is that Overwatch 1 was paid. You paid $60, right? And because of that, you basically got like a pass that gave you extra rewards. That's basically how it worked. You get free loot boxes, but you gotta like get the experience bar up, right? Because that's right there. It's like, in the beginning, it's like really easy to level up, but then it gets slower. And you also get like 4 items. So in TF2, you don't get any free. Well, you get the loot boxes for free in a drop, which is random, right? Per week, you get a certain amount of drops, and you get a random loot box, right? So even that is random. And then, but you still gotta like buy a key, and then you get like 1 item. In Overwatch, you can get loot boxes for playing the arcade. You get them by leveling up, and then you get like 4 things, and a lot of times shit, right? But like in TF2, it's also shit. So that's free. When in Overwatch 2, it became a free-to-play game, but Overwatch 1 turned into Overwatch 2. So people's passes were revoked. Now they, like me, a new player, I'm like, oh, this is a free-to-play game. Those old players are like, my paid game got turned to a free-to-play game. And this battle pass was less generous. It had more friction, basically. Like Overwatch 1, there was friction, of course. Because if you wanted, if there was like a timed event, you had to buy all those loot boxes, that's like friction. In Overwatch 2, if you want those skins, you gotta buy the battle pass. You just have to. It's way less generous, they probably improved it by now. But people really got annoyed by this, because it's more friction in a game that used to have less friction. So people got really angry. Really angry. Extremely angry. Almost irrationally angry. And actually, I had like a video planned where I like explain it. It's on the backlog right now, but like that's kind of like where people were very blinded, because Blizzard, shit company, right? But people are even saying that Team Fortress 2 was better when it comes to loot boxes and stuff. Like, oh, the loot boxes in Overwatch 1 were better. Oh, TF2 was so much better. No, it wasn't. TF2 is way more fucking evil than Overwatch has ever been. But people don't really see that. Like in the TF2, loot boxes, you can buy them on the community markets. They're random. You can just go to the store and buy 500 loot boxes, please. And then Blizzard is like, okay, here 500 loot boxes. No, there's even like a limited amount. Like certain boxes from like the invasion event they're limited. Like the event is over by now. If they all get opened, it's done. There's a limited amount of any loot box. It's really fucked up, honestly. But that's kind of it. Like, people just got angry because their skin box wasn't giving them enough anymore. Yet at the same time, they're not quitting because they're so invested in their skins. Because they got all these skins in this game. They played Overwatch once for so long. There's some cost fallacy. So they're just extremely angry and extremely stuck. And that's why people got so angry. Even at some other things, like, oh, you have to unlock characters by playing the game. It's like, well, yeah, that's like a really basic feature, Like, meanwhile, in TF2, if you want a weapon, you have to wait for the weapon system to drop that shit, which is random, Like, I still have not, like, I actually like accidentally like got rid of my babyface's blaster. I've played a lot like versus bots, like getting a bunch of weapon drops, right? On like training servers. I still don't have a babyface blaster. And I'm not crafting one. Hell, for the longest time, I couldn't even craft one. Because you need specific weapons to craft it. So it's random. In Overwatch 2, I played a week. All characters unlocked, So who cares? And even then, like, there was like a bug where Overwatch 1 players, they were supposed to just have the characters. They didn't, that's a bug. It's not that bad, all things considered. But people got really fucking angry. Because they were just really angry. So, like, was that a good thing to criticize? Not really. But they're super duper mega angry because they're super duper frustrated. but they're not leaving. And it's like, leave. I left. That's part of the story I want to tell, how I left. But you just gotta leave. But they don't, because they're stuck. They're just angry that they're not being manipulated correctly anymore. There's more friction, and Blizzard now, they're probably improving still. People are still going to be playing that game. They're going to be like, to make all this videos like, is Overwatch 2 done? I don't know. Are you going to stop playing it? Because the TF2 is still not done. You know why? Because people are still playing it. Yeah, so, I got to move on now. I think I talked about Skinner boxes enough. My throat is getting sore. But there's one more thing I need to talk about. One more thing. Although, well, did I talk about everything? I guess, I'm completely like, I made notes, but I completely forgot what the rest I was going to be talking about. So instead, I'm going to tell you about about my game design book again. Because if I had this other video where I talked about it, Skinner boxes are mentioned in this book. But to shorten it, to give you a quick recap, they talked about like it was in a chapter called How to Make People Play a Game, and they were like, oh, there's this thing called a Skinner box. Here's a smart person to tell you a little bit about it. And the smart person's like, oh, Skinner boxes. It's kind of weird because it's almost like these game mechanics are treating us like animals, like we're being conditioned, like we're kind of like rats in a cage. And it's like, oh, that kind of sucks. But then they don't go into it. It's not like, it's kind of like, oh, here's some interesting information. Don't do anything with it. That's kind of frustrating, right? Because, this interesting stuff. I don't want to be treated like a pigeon. These companies are actually like, they're actually designing all this friction. But actually, that's what I want to talk about still. That's what I was forgetting. Because adding friction is dangerous. It can go sour. People can get angry. So, what I said before, every time a red press the button, what if you got paid? What if you got $1? That'd be awesome. Because you're trying to get that red to press the button a lot of times. Even with like, actually a good example of a fixed interval schedule is they lock in the rewards. Come back every day and you definitely get a reward. Right? That's a good one. So, that's a way, like how do you make money except for like adding friction? How can the button pressing itself make you money? And it basically can't. Because one way you can do it is, what if you connected the Skinner box to a dynamo, and every time they press it, the dynamo goes like bzzz, and it generates electricity, and then you sell the electricity. Issue is the Skinner box takes energy. Second issue, that's still friction because the button, like a dynamo, is kind of hard. Like you need to press the thing pretty hard. Like your bike, man. Like you turn on your light and like cycling gets harder. That's friction. It gets harder to press the button. It takes more energy. If you get a rat to do it, that takes too much energy. The rat also has to eat. It's not the diminishing returns. There's not even returns. You're losing power. You're losing food. You're losing money. Okay, so then and that's the thing about like the whole. That's the thing, because even if they would generate electricity, why not get a robot to press the button? Just get a mechanical robot to do it. You're still using electricity, but like the laws of physics that doesn't work. You can't use the electricity of the robot to generate more electricity than the robot took. It's impossible. Even getting a human to do it, that doesn't work. You're losing energy. Always. So, the only way I can see it happen, because the thing about different between a robot, because that's why the whole like video game thing, it works like, because the difference between robots and humans is that humans have money. You can manipulate a human into giving you money. You can't do that with a robot. Like the robot isn't a human, they don't have money. You can hack a robot to like drain someone's bank account, I guess. But that's like illegal. If you trick a human into giving you money, that's technically legal. That's really like, there's laws to help people against that. But a lot of the time it's like, well, you send that Nigerian prince your money, you shouldn't have done it. That's it. Like, it's technically legal because you just tricked them into doing it. Yeah, you were tricked. Tough luck, Like, I mean, advertisements are basically designed to trick you into spending money, right? So it doesn't work. The only way I can see it happen is it's really, if you want someone to stand up, to get to like to wake up at a certain time, like let's say 7 o'clock, you can do that. If you want them to get to work, you can do that. Because actually I played like Cookie Clicker, and yeah, like after I finished school, I was like, I would often like play Skinner boxes, to like kind of unwind. And after finishing school, I was like, I feel like doing like an idle game. And after 3 days, I turned the Cookie Clicker off. Like, I deleted it. Like, I closed the pin tab I had on my computer, because I was actually getting up way before I would normally get up just to optimize my cookie clicking. And that's really like a big part. Oh man, like I just realized I like missed so many, because okay, when that example I gave you, where a rat presses a button, if you give them food every time, it's consistent. If you give them food only ever so often, they have to work for that, right? Like, then like they don't know if it takes 10 button presses to get more food. God, I miss talk about so many things. Oh, this is gonna be a mess. Then they're like, okay, I can get, if I press it just once, I get food. Right now, I need to press it like 10 times to get my food. What if tomorrow I'm really hungry and I need food, and I need to press it like 100 times? Then it's gonna be way too long. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna preemptively press it 100 times, or how many times it takes, to get to collect like a hoard. It's that hoarding thing. You're hoarding more because you don't know if it's gonna be there. And that's the big idea, is you're trying to be optimal. Optimization. If it's infinite, being optimal isn't important. If it's limited, if it's scarce, then you gotta get up. You gotta get up earlier to optimize the amount of food you can generate. And that's what was happening with me with Cookie Clicker, is I was getting up earlier to be able to like use like a bonus or something. It's like every day you gotta log in, because that's optimal. If you miss a day, that's an optimal. You lost time, you lost resources. And especially, if you have a job, and let's say if every day you worked, you got $1 million. That's like, I'm only gonna go to work if I need $1 million. I'm gonna go to work for 1 day and then I'm done. But if you don't get a lot of money for working, then you need to build up a pension. You need to build up retirement funds. You need to build up like a little hoard. You need to hoard, because you don't know when you're gonna need it. What if my house burns down? That's it. That's how they get you. And so, getting up, that's how they get you to get up early to go to work, because you need to work like 8 hours a day, because otherwise you don't get paid, right? You're getting up way earlier, and that's kind of the way that you could use a Skinner box, is to get people to trick people, because going to work and getting like a job, that's like regular conditioning, kind of like, it's still consistent, but it's just not a lot. Like, if you just need to press the button 1,000 times to get like a cookie, it's like, that's consistent. It's a fixed ratio schedule, but it sucks. It's not exciting. If it's a random amount, then it becomes like interesting again. So that's like the only way I could see it. Like, but even then, it doesn't make money. Like, making people get up early, yeah, you manipulated them. It doesn't really generate money. And that's really the big issue. There's just this limit. You can't make money otherwise. It needs that friction. Okay? So that's what I want to talk about. I think I'm all done. But I'm going to talk about my game design book. Because in the index, actually, I was actually looking through the index, and then the S, it said Skinner box. So I read that part. But then I kept reading. I was reading this book, and there's these things called designer perspectives. There's like 2 of them for each chapter. And this book is thick. It says there's 30. I wrote it down. There's like 30 of them. And these designer perspectives are really interesting because these are like, these are people like, some of them are like famous, like Richard Garriott, Warren Spector from like Thief and stuff, System Shock, and some of these people are, some of them are pretty cool, other ones are kind of dumb, and some of them are kind of dicks. And I read this, and this guy, holy shit, like this guy, well, what's going on is this guy mentioned Skinner boxes, but not by name. So it doesn't appear in the index. It doesn't appear in the index. But he describes them. And this guy, like I stopped reading. I was like, I can only keep reading this book after I tell you about this guy. Holy shit. So let me tell you about this guy. Like, don't go harass this guy or anything. But like, I don't like him. He's an asshole. He wears his underwear backwards. He has eyeballs for testicles. His name is Alan Lee, Chief Design Officer, Xbox Entertainment Studios. And then it says, Alan Lee is a game designer and creative entrepreneur. Love that. Whose credits include the groundbreaking alternate reality games, ARGs, The Beast, I Love Bees, and 9 Inch Nails, Year Zero. I Love Bees. He began his career at Industrial Light and Magic and has co-founded several innovative game companies, including 42 Entertainment and Fort Wall Studios, blah, blah. He's current Chief Design Officer at Xbox Entertainment Studios. This guy, holy shit. So these people, they ask him some questions, like right here you got David Perry, who's really is just the CEO. I actually wrote it down here, CEO perspective. So questions are like on getting into the game industry, how did you get in? What's your favorite games? What's your inspirations? What do you have advice on solving a difficult design problem? Like a case where you had like a problem and how you solved it. Advice to designers. So this guy, they ask, how did you become a game designer? A good question, right? Years of hard work and determination, and never losing sight of, ... Kidding. Ha ha ha. Yeah, I don't know. Is that supposed to be a joke? Games were just the thing I did while I should have been studying in school. Wrote tons of mods, designed my own levels, and quickly became obsessed with the kinds of stories a game could tell, and luckily for me, were not currently being told. Oh, okay. I started a series of companies, largely by begging and stealing money from friends to remedy the situation. What? Like, damn. I started a series of companies. Like, how much money does it take to start a company? $5 then? How much money did you steal? Is it supposed to be funny? Like, I don't understand. But isn't the part that makes him an asshole? No, here we go. Well, I don't think this part's actually important. I should have read this earlier. On games that have inspired him. The first time I can remember blowing my mind was Captain Kangaroo's picture pages when I was around 5 years old. Don't judge. Wait, hang on a second. Yeah. Okay. I don't get it, man. The basic notion was to encourage kids to pester their parents into buying a weekly book called Picture Pages, which was loaded with awesome puzzles, drawings, and stories. Then on the weekly TV show Captain Kangaroo, the captain, I can call him that because we go way back. This guy's not very funny. Would draw pictures and solve puzzles in his magical book, and it was the same book you were holding in your hands. Oh, it was pure wizardry for me. My parents constantly told me that the people in the TV couldn't actually see me, but here was burning proof in my two little mitts that I knew something they didn't. Today, when I design games, they always include breaking the fourth wall, empowering the audience to take action, instilling a sense of discovery, making the real world feel a bit more magical, including the audience in the storytelling process. Okay. So this part's not really interesting. In looking back at those ideas, it seems pretty clear when the seeds were planted. Okay. But this is hopefully when it gets interesting. What exciting developments do you see in the industry? This would be such an easy question if I only had a name for the thing I want to talk about. Okay, so there have been a few big advances in the art of storytelling. Things like the campfire, the Western theater, the printing press, the motion picture camera, and now this new thing. What should I call it? The internet? Social networks? The globally connected temporal cross-platform meta infrastructure? Yep, that sounds like a winner. Let's go with that. We can call it the GCTCPMI for short. This guy's so unfunny. It's actually incredible. Whatever you call it, the fact that we can use it to build games that take us out into the real world, games that move from one screen to another, games that we can play as a team of humans, and games that generally make us all feel like superheroes for doing the things that we're already badasses at, makes me pretty excited to get to wake up in the morning and wear the title designer. Okay? What was that all about? I don't know. But here's where the part where I wrote with the pencil really large Skinner box. So here we go. On a difficult design problem. This part's actually really long. One of my majors in college was psychology. Which, if you're a game designer, they tell you to get a major, learn about psychology. I didn't get it in school. Didn't even get, I don't think, the opportunity for it. But I learned my psychology, basic of Skinner boxes. Because that's really what you're supposed to learn about Skinner boxes. Behaviorism, how players think. So yeah, this guy, he got, I'll just tell you, man, oh, holy shit. The other was computer science, which it turns out is a special combination that upon a graduation gets you a call from the nice folks at the CIA asking if you'd be interested in exploring employment opportunities. So this guy did psychology and computer science, and then the CIA asks you to work for them. I think it's one of those moments where you're like, are we the baddies? Am I a bad guy? Like the CIA is like, oh, the CIA is like, you know about psychology and computers? Yeah, we could use you. We're building our real Skinner box. I call it the Monroe box. There's actually like a Simpson clip. It's a good Simpson clip. You should look it up. The Monroe box. Funny clip. Yeah, so he just tells me, he just tells you this. Like, oh yeah, the CIA want to hire me. Yeah, and I understand why. Because it becomes very clear, man. He probably should have just taken the job. I mean, I really don't get why he didn't. Because, honestly, this guy is pretty well made for them. And one of my most favorite topics in psych was reinforcement. So this is what I meant, right? He's talking about Skinner boxes, but he doesn't use the word Skinner box. I don't know how he does that. He apparently doesn't remember. He just, I don't know, his teacher didn't tell him that's called a Skinner box. Okay. Reinforcement is the process of rewarding good behavior or punishing bad behavior and breaks down into a few basic categories. And then, okay, so this is kind of what I said, but different. This guy, I don't think he remembers very well what he learned. Positive reinforcement. Give the rat a treat every time he pushes the button. Well, not every time, but see, he doesn't remember very well. Makes for very well trained, but eventually too fat to move rats. Okay. No, not really, because that's not operant conditioning. Yeah, they know how to press the button, but they're not pressing it a lot, right? So that's positive reinforcement, because you gave him a reward, but that's not what that means specifically. He's not explaining it correctly, because he forgot what it's about. He didn't look at back. He really should have done some, he really should have looked it up again. Then there's negative reinforcement. Give the rat a giant electric shock. Giant, that's overkill, dude. Every time he doesn't push the button. Well, is it every second? That doesn't make sense. Give him a shock when he doesn't press at the right time. That would make sense. Makes for extremely well-trained rats that spend most of their day cowering in the corner, hoping for the sweet release of oblivion. I think oblivion has already been released. Also, that's not funny. Again, is it supposed to be funny? Oh, look, the rats. Oh, please, oblivion, take me. Biozora, please take my soul. Molag Ball. No, that's not funny, dude. Like he's not making an Oblivion reference, of course, but that's not funny. But see, that's kind of the thing with this guy. He's kind of a dick. And then there's random schedule reinforcement, which like no, that's not how that works. It's called a variable, a variable schedule. And there's positive and negative reinforcements, but there's a rewards and punishment. So, but what it says here, randomly determine whether or not to give the rat a treat every time he pushes the button, which you can do. You can just flip a coin, I guess. Makes for extremely determined rats that are thrilled to spend their days repeatedly pushing the button because they're sure they'll get the treat if they push the button just one more time. Again, that's not that. That's not. He's not explaining it very well, but that's just a Skinner box. And he's like talking about it like really excited, like, oh, look at the energy I have. Although they're very determined, they're thrilled to spend their days repeatedly pushing the button because maybe the next time it's a slot machine. Wow. So now you're wondering, where is he going with this shit? Because the way it sounds, like it's not sounding very good, right? Where is he going with this? So that third one really left a mark on me. Did it? It's the notion that drives pretty much all of Las Vegas. And if one were to use his or her power for good instead of evil, it could make for some pretty awesome gameplay. Now, right there, fucking asshole. Good instead of evil? Oh yeah, no, Las Vegas. That place is evil. But when you put it in a video game, then it's good. Like, no. Like, no, right? Fuck this guy. So when I was designing I Love Bees for Halo 2, okay, so the way this works is that Halo 2 had a marketing campaign called I Love Bees, which was an ARG, alternate reality game. And that's your cue to understand that every single ARG around the game is an advertisement. Every single one. TF2 had ARGs, Overwatch had ARGs, they're ads. And really, I don't understand why companies don't do this all the time. Because you want to connect with young people. You don't show an ad on YouTube or on TV. You make an ARG. And of course, the issue with that is that it costs a lot of money, but the returns are huge. So honestly, you want to advertise to young people? Make an ARG. I mean, you're advertising, so you're still an asshole, but like, it's effective. I can't argue, but they don't do it. And like honestly, like this story is about to tell. If you're smart, you're gonna do this. You want people to like buy your game? Make an ARG. Because yeah, this I Love Bees ARG for Halo 2, it worked. So what it says, the pitch basically went, okay, we're going to take chapter 1 of a radio drama, cut it up into little parts, and broadcast them out to the audience over ringing payphones, like Zaz in Arkham City. Yeah, right? It'll be amazing. Hey, Batman, you want to tell me about the first cut I ever made? The Penguin, Cobblepot, you see? Yeah. They bought it. Woo, like the executives, I guess. And the first week went pretty well. We posted a massive list of GPS coordinates, and hundreds of thousands of players around the world dutifully went out to answer phones and reconstruct the story. They were excited. We were excited. There was much merriment in the world. God, like this guy's he's talking like a bard, like, but dick. Then came week number 2. The plan for week 2 was to do the exact same thing. Bad idea. More GPS, more payphones, and more story goodness. The way he talks, it's like it's getting more slimy by the sentence. So it turns out that when faced with another wall of GPS coordinates, and the daunting task of doing the exact same thing as the previous week, players started grumbling. Yeah, because you're making them run all over the fucking country to answer payphones. For the second week in a row. Like that's literally, it's a fetch quest, Oh, thank you for bringing me these 5 wolf pelts. Could you bring me 5 more? Please? Yeah. By the 3rd week of payphones, players started posting things like, bees raped my childhood. Oh. Deserved. I mean, I don't think they did, literally. But like, fuck you, fuck you, little ARG. Thousands of players signed a petition. A petition. That's such a gamer thing to do. Please, please, game designers, please make a better game. We'll pay you money. A petition called "For the Love of God, No More Payphones." I hope the payphones were at least free. It was about that time that I could most easily be found curled up in a ball under my desk, weeping silently. Good, well, good. Like, this guy's not. He's such a dick. I got so angry about this guy. I'm a lot calmer now, but this guy, I read that, I was like, what a dick. But then I remembered the rats from college. You see where this is going? The next week, instead of just making pre-recorded phone calls, we put a live actor on one of the phones at random. Yeah, a live actor. Okay, well, that's something different. Could you just done it initially? Barking orders, giving challenges, and recording the entire interaction so that the lucky player who answered the randomly assigned payphone would literally get written into the story of Halo. Good old random schedule reinforcement. Wow. You manipulated your fans. Good. Nice. Good that you're being such a dick about it too. So funny. Yeah, so this is a loot box, right? It's like you answer the payphone. You open the loot box, you get all the way to that fucking location. You call the phone, and you hope to get an unusual or a legendary. That's what it is. It's like, we're not going to make the players do something different, because we don't have the development time to do that. That takes like effort and stuff. We're not going to design a different quest. We're just going to randomize it. It's like Destiny, yeah. We're just going to make you do the raid 10 times for a bright engram or something. Yeah, we're not going to give you different missions. Just randomize it. Yeah, so the effect was glorious. Oh, glorious. Answering payphones was transformed overnight from a mundane chore to a coveted community event. Players started dressing up in costumes to answer payphones. They started taking their friends with them to answer payphones. They even started hosting parties around the randomly ringing payphones in their cities. Batman's me ass. You wanna hear about, what's that sound in the background? You bring your friends for a party? What the fuck, dude? It's a fucking trauma I'm sharing with you. Fuck you. I Love Bees is commonly referred to as the largest alternate reality game in history. And I have those poor tortured rats to thank. It was a magical moment for me, and one of the most important game design lessons I've ever learned. Next time, I'll try the electric shock method, just to make sure it wasn't a fluke. Wow. Piece of shit. No, whole shit. Wow. So, right there. Wow. Like, again, reading that, I actually forgot it. Like, it's really bad. It's really fucking bad. Now, here's the thing about that, right? Halo 2, I've never played it. Never owned any Xbox, never played any Xbox games. Halo 2 is a very legendary game, right? The thing is, if I were to play it now, I would not get the same experience. You cannot recreate the culture around that. LAN parties, like all those, like I'm not even like 10 years old anymore, right? Maybe if 10-year-olds today would like be given like a classroom with like all these LAN computers like connected and they play like a LAN party, maybe you can recreate that magic. Probably not. They're probably all going to be on their phones with TikTok, right? Like that magic is kind of gone because, but they'll have different, experience, like you can't recreate that situation, but let's hope different, situations like that will keep happening, right? Everyone has their own childhood. Okay, but I can't relive your childhood. And one of the reasons for that is because a marketing campaign like this, it doesn't exist anymore. That hype around that, you just had to be there for it. So, I can like analyze the game design of Halo 2, like level design, like enemy behavior stuff, storyline. But I even like teabagging, teabagging is just a thing that happens. I wasn't there when that was invented or something, right? I wasn't part of this, like, and I'm glad I wasn't part of this ARG, because these people, they had parties apparently, you know, like they're obsessed with this game. They love that game, but a big part is maybe because they were manipulated. So is Halo 2 really that good? Or was it all, oh shit, my battery's almost dead. I gotta finish this up. But yeah, so there's no way for me to like re-experience that. And maybe people were wrong to have that much fun with it in a way, right? Like, because they were manipulated into doing that fucking ARG. They were hyped up. They were open loot boxes. So yeah, they were having a good time, but it was all for money. And this is it. This is actually a really good example. Like the thing about like waking up every day to go to work, you know, how do you make money off of a Skinner box? Yes, you can add friction, or you can make them excited by like getting them addicted to something and then using that as advertisement. That's how you can get them. And so you got a guy like this, who's like, you know, I don't even know how he sleeps at night. How does he do it? You know, like it's all like a big joke to him. Like those rats, oh man, they got shocked. You know, are you surprised? You know, why didn't you just say yes to the CIA? You know, we need you to torture some people. You know, he probably would say yes. The CIA, I don't know, but we want you to torture people like rats. Oh, well, then I'm in. We need you to produce some propaganda, an ARG that teaches people to do their taxes and also hate the people we want them to hate. I'm on. I'm in. Let's do some fabricated, like, what's that called? Consent. Let's fabricate some consent. Let's do it. And you know, if you want someone, you're gonna get this guy. Get this guy. He's really good at that. They should have said that. But yeah, I gotta finish this up. More of the story. Skinner boxes.
It's a special isolation chamber. The subject pulls levers to receive food and warmth. The floor can become electrified, and showers of icy water randomly fall on the subject. I call it the Monroe box.
Well, it sounds interesting. How much will it cost to build?
Oh, that's the beauty part. It's already built. I need the money to buy a baby to raise in the box until the age of 30.
What are you trying to prove?
Well, my theory is that the subject will be socially maladjusted and will harbor a deep resentment towards me.
Interesting.